The Observed Human, an augmented reality game about observing and being observed, starring the other and you behind the camera. The concept. This game is a reaction to Jürgen Lett's 1967's movie, The Perfect Human, and also an attempt to update some of its core themes. Eroticism as a dynamic. As a game designer, when I look for inspiration, I'm constantly looking for dynamics. Things that take other things and change them. And it occurred to me that the movie runs on a dynamic of eroticism. After some research, I define eroticism in my game as the transformative energy caused by wanting without the satisfaction of having. Legacy of erotic imagination. Our collective understanding of eroticism is undergoing symbolic disruption. In the case of Jürgen Lett, in 2010, he premiered what he considered to be the sequel of The Perfect Human, which he called The Erotic Man. But unlike his 1967's movie, that was critically acclaimed, The Erotic Man was panned by critics, called many times soft porn. All of it because it showed young black women of different parts of the world nude and having sex with the author, with the filmmaker. It is clear that the popular idea of the erotic is in need of reimagining. Retraining the erotic imagination. Can we replace an eroticism based on power imbalance by eroticism based on equality? I consider games to be dystopic or utopic system design. In other words, we create alternatives to the world in which we live in. Here, I use Gloria Steinem's formulation of a new way of looking at eroticism, not necessarily as a goal or an outcome, but certainly as a guiding force. I believe that retraining the erotic imagination is one of the most important jobs that artists and designers have in the 21st century. So to the game. At the beginning of the game, the others, these characters presented here, do not understand the presence of the camera. They go about their lives doing other things. Now you are behind the camera, and the others are in the game board, which I'll explain in a bit, going about their lives. But as the time passes, the camera will affect their behavior. Some will be attracted to the camera, while others will start to resent it. In my game, the appearance would also change, based on whether they love or hate the camera. While some will move out of sight, others will seek the camera. Fewer and fewer will remain unaffected by the gaze. You can switch the camera position to alter their behavior. As they walk around the board, if two others get together for long enough, they will generate a new other. The others are everywhere in the game board, looking for each other at first, but slowly changing because of you. First prototype. I created rules and tested them with dice and Legos in a standard game board. Let's take a look at how the rules actually work. Let's take a look at the rules of the first prototype of the observed human. Here we have the permutations of the others. The ones in blue represent the ones that like to be seen by the camera. The ones in orange represent the ones that do not like to be seen by the camera. The ones in gray are indifferent to the camera and instead are more preoccupied with meeting others and generating offspring. Here on the bottom right, we have a representation of the camera, or the player, the main player with the camera. And the yellow and red string represents the viewpoint or the field of view in the board. The board right now is represented or shown here with this square with smaller black, green, and red squares inside. And the white constructions with the Legos represent things that are in between the point of view and the others, the objects. So let's move along and see how the game is set up. So here we have a simple setup where the player is looking to the front, and we have as a starting position a blue other loves the camera and can move 3 spaces at a time. A gray other that is indifferent to the camera and can move 2 spaces at a time. And an orange other who hates the camera and can only move 1 space at a time. So in their first turn, the blue other starts moving towards the camera in the most optimal path. It's attracted to the camera. The gray other does not care about the camera and instead is looking for a partner. And the orange other hates the camera and moves away. So that finishes their turn. Now as players, or as a player, our turn is to move about to get the better look, to look at them at the same time. So for example, here the player moved to the right once, and that gave the player a better position. Now here it's important to notice that moving as a player around the board has a cost. We can consider that to be a point system. You start with a certain amount of points, but they deplete every time that you move about. The only way to gain more points so that you can keep playing is to capture the others, getting together, mating and creating a new other. And so that creates the tension, making sure that you're constantly, as a player, that you're constantly looking for a good look on both of them at the same time. So now that I moved, it's their turn again, and the blue other moves closer towards me in the most optimal path. Oh, but it's in the way of the gray one. And the gray one is happy. Now they're together, and it starts the process of them generating a new other. It also gives me a point because I captured the moment in the camera, in the field of view. Now in my prototype here, I utilized dice to randomly generate their offspring. So for example, here I'm going to roll a die and check to see if the offspring will be either gray or blue, right? That would be naturally what would be the result of these two getting together. And I rolled a die, and if it landed between 4 and 6, the result was going to be blue, so I have that. Then I rolled the die again if to find out how fast can they move. The options are either moving 3 steps at a time or only 2 steps at a time, because that is the origin, the others in their origin. So I run again and I run a 2. So the result is that the new other is going to be a blue other, meaning say loves the camera, that can move 2 steps at a time and is added to the board. Here we go. We finish the turn and the orange moves away further from the camera once again. Now something else that is important is that at the end of 2 others getting together, one of them goes away. And we roll the die here to decide which one is going to go away. Is the blue one or the gray one? And we roll the die. The gray one is going to go away. And now we have permanently changed the culture of the game board. Now we have two who love the camera and one who hates it. The neutral ones went away. It's a random, but that tends to be the outcome after many plays, after many turns. So here I move again to try to position myself in such a way that I can capture two of them at the same time. And it's their turn again. So the blue moves closer to me, the blue, or to the player. The blue grows closer to the player again. The orange moves away. It's my turn again. I move around, or the player's turn again. I move to capture them in a better position. And it's the blue turn, the orange moves away, and they get together, and so the cycle continues. Second prototype. Using Unity and Vuforia, I programmed a simple behavior for my characters and the ability to change variables through the camera. The target image renders the board, and I have three simple others represented by these capsules. And when the camera hovers right over them, they change a variable. Something about them changes. In that case, the color switched from black to green. The setup. Once the program is working as is intended, this is what I'm aiming to do. It recognizes a physical board and renders virtual characters and architecture. The others move on their own logic, but their behavior will change as you just look at them with the camera. Variables. Their appearance also changes as time passes. The system will store each individual's attraction or rejection of the camera as a value. This value will increase or decrease during their lifespan and affect their offspring. Environment. The board itself is made out of modular pieces that can be set and reset every time. The modular pieces save the data from the last session. The observed human becomes a sort of a digital fish tank. First person and multiplayer. At any given point, players can switch roles with one of the others and see the world from their perspective. The player controls, meaning to say speed, ease of movement, depends on the value stored in the other of choice. A second player can control the camera in this instance. Character design and animations. Trial and error in capturing notions such as the pre-cultural nude and genderless eroticism had taken me from designing the characters as simple variables to making sketches that go from simple abstract shapes to more opinionated designs, to study multiple artists, men and women of different eras, and capture their idea of the erotic in this genderless notion, and continue on to painting and modern representations of the body. At the end, I created a high definition 3D sculpture to be used in a 3D game. But it occurred to me that it was important to hold on to the idea of pre-cultural nude. Pre-cultural nude can be defined as the nude body seen in the absence of politics. Now, this does not quite exist. Everything implies some power balance or imbalance, but it's a useful lie, a thought exercise that we've used through time to entertain the notion of the erotic body. A perfect example of the pre-cultural nude is Adam and Eve. And here, I'm considering the pre-cultural nude in the 3D digital world to be this simple polygonal figure, inspired by Altamira cave paintings. So with this in mind, I designed and animated these polygonal figures. And what I've done is alter the materials with which they're rendered. So after giving them different behaviors that I can use in the Unity engine as animations, I test appearances such as gold and silver and other ones to represent the idea of culture changing the body. An alternate take. I have a friend, his name is Chris Goodwin, and he's a game designer as well. I talked to him about my project early on, and he made his own version of the game, which he calls Gaze. He made it in a week, and although we were talking about similar ideas, his metaphor in terms of games was very different. This was an exciting thing to see. Familiar controls and behaviors. I think that many games depend on the specialized knowledge produced and maintained within insular subcultures. Many games have played with controllers that are very complicated and using knowledge that needs to be gained through many generations of gameplay. But I believe that we need to make games that are welcoming to a broader set of stylized behaviors and control methods.